It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th century, the interweb's first and only podcast. My name is Jared.
My name is Matt.
I go by Michael.
Mike, you just hear the pain every time he does this show when he has to say his name. It's so unnatural for him. But this week he spiced it up a little bit.
Might have to put him into like a reprogramming or like indoctrination kind of thing to get him on board.
Indoctrination? Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Matt.
Is it?
I think I'm picking up what you're laying down.
It's pretty thick, so don't trip on it.
So we thought this week we would talk about our kids and trying to get them into the stuff that we're interested in.
In spite of the fact that we are total nerds, we have reproduced.
Yes. Now, of course, all this happened back in the 21st century, and we are far removed from everyone we know and love here in the 25th century. However, looking back, we can say with authority that the 70s and 80s were the greatest time for TV and movies and all that kind of stuff.
I think this has been proved scientifically.
Yeah. It has been. I mean, without question. We were part of the golden age, and naturally, we wanted to pass this on to our offspring. But in the 21st century, if you recall, there were so many distractions, so many things vying for their young minds' attention. Can something that we enjoyed in the 70s or 80s even compete anymore? And we're going to talk about this evening here on the Hyperspace.
It's a tough road. I'm not going to lie, guys. I mean, so far you guys have older kids in mind. I have a son who's currently 6. He'll be 7 in the summertime. And he's just at the age now where I can really kind of start working this stuff in, and he's interested.
Needing it.
Yeah. But I tell you, I can see the road ahead, and it's a narrow, winding, precarious one that I'm not entirely confident I'm going to be able to navigate.
Yeah.
I can say that don't give up hope, because I've faced the same obstacle with mine when they were young, because there was just so much going on. But I find it now that they're getting older, they're kind of like reassessing the stuff I liked as compared to the stuff they like.
Oh, it's interesting, yeah.
And so I can bring up an example of that here in a little bit.
I'll tell you, I have a few good positive examples of this for tonight. But I'll tell you, the starting point was music. So, my wife and I have diametrically different tastes in music. And I've discussed this on the podcast. I don't hate on anybody's music. You listen to whatever you want to listen to. But if you're in the car just with me and it's my kids, you're going to listen to my music. Or Baby Shark. It's going to be one of those.
Did you ever listen to... Did they ever watch Mighty Machines?
No.
Oh, man. Those were the best. They were actually kind of cool. They were DVDs about how giant trucks and stuff. But they also showed how recycler stuff worked. It was really interesting. But they had this great theme song like, Mighty Machines. And I put it on my iPod, and David used to sing along to that.
Yeah, but they didn't change into robots, did they? No. we invented that.
That's true. They listen to my music a lot, and they request it a lot, much to my wife's chagrin.
Similar.
I haven't really
similar story here.
I haven't brought them into like the realm of like Guns N' Roses and Metallica and stuff like that, but I've gotten them a little more, into the 80s stuff that I like. And it's any given day that any three of my kids are going to request Eye of the Tiger to be played any day going to school. So.
Excellent choice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you told us that on back on the Babbling with Balboa shows.
Yep. So I'm proud of them in that way.
So you say that was kind of their first gateway into your interests.
I think so.
I think I tried too early to show them stuff, and
you can't show them Halloween when they're 3, which you were doing.
It's edited. I edited all the bad parts out.
I just want to clarify that's a dirty lie.
Your parents took you to Jaws when you were 3, so
they deserve the same experience I had.
But I did try to do some of it too early, and it didn't take. And I think it was because of what you were talking about. There was so much competing with it that it does seem there's nothing exceptional about it. When we were seeing this stuff, like it was literally the first time this stuff was being made.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did Star Wars and all that stuff, but I think one of the main kind of gateway things that sort of started them in that direction was the Lego games.
Ah, yes.
Because, you had Lego Star Wars, Lego Batman, Lego...
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like the first game David played when he was little was Lego Lord of the Rings. And he was playing my character after I'd already pretty much unlocked everything. And he would just roam around Middle-earth, just doing whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. In fact, not to take up all the time here in the beginning of the podcast, but Star Wars is an interesting topic for me. And it's kind of one of those things I hold. Yeah. I hold it obviously precious to me.
It's the first I'm hearing about this.
But you see, my wife has never seen Star Wars. She has no problem with me loving Star Wars, but she has no interest in it in herself. So the thing is, there's an interesting pressure that I'm not the only father to feel this with their kids, but there is so much stuff out there, so much stuff on YouTube, on the games they play, like Roblox, so much. Even Minecraft has this stuff coming in and out of it. But Star Wars spoilers are everywhere. Everywhere that my son exists.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I have been doing my best to help censor a lot of the content that he gets his hands on or gets near, so he doesn't watch it and learn about Star Wars until I show him the movies. And
until you deem it.
Exactly. No, but I one of the important things is like when Vader reveals he's Luke's father. Mm-hmm. That is so. I mean, you go anywhere, you can find that out. But yes. I managed to hide that fact from him until last week when he finally watched Empire with me. That he learned that Vader was Luke's father, and to me, that was a massive win. It was a massive win because it took so much concentration and dedication to monitor what he was playing on his iPad or watch what he's watching on YouTube. It's unbelievable how hard that is.
Well, it's a part of our culture.
Exactly. So
yeah.
So I got it. I managed to get to that point.
Yeah. I mean, it's in Toy Story 2.
Exactly. He didn't pick it up, and I saw he didn't pick it up. And so I've done a good job in that regard. He knows some other stuff about Star Wars, but I don't care. The important stuff was like Luke and Vader. That had to remain pure, and it did. But
wow, that's good.
Like I tried that with Star Wars, and Star Wars didn't really take with them. But now
I remember when you told me, you texted me, and you're like, "I'm going to show him A New Hope tonight. I'm really looking forward to it." And then you were like, by the time the Sand People showed up, they were like wandering off. And you're like, I failed.
Wait, how old were they?
They were too young. I think I was a little exuberant about it, but I think now that like they like Battlefront, they like The Mandalorian, so they're coming. Like we've talked about, we're going to do like a watch through. We're going to start with the first one because especially David. It's like, yeah, I really want to watch them. So I feel like I kind of forced Star Wars, so I kind of blew it with them. But recently, now that they're older, I've been showing them other movies, and I'm kind of getting some really great responses from the movies. Like, I recently showed them the original Planet of the Apes.
Uh-huh.
And I was a little concerned because that movie is not action-packed. I mean, it's got some, it's a story movie.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. Yeah.
And, even by the end, they were starting to get a little restless, when they're in the caves and they're looking through the artifacts. But man, I didn't, because we had watched Spaceballs. And I thought, I hope this movie didn't blow that. I'm telling you.
What is that coming out of her nose?
When they saw that Statue of Liberty, it was like everything just stopped. Both of them. And they were like, wait a minute. Is that the Statue of Liberty? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, wait a minute. Is he on Earth? And I'm like,
that's
yeah.
great.
And they're like,
That's great.
Seth was like, hold on a second. Hold on a second. My mind is freaking out. Hold on a second. And like,
got him.
for the rest of it was right before bedtime. And I mean, they were like, I can't believe it. He was on Earth the whole time. And it was unexpected. I could not believe how they responded to that. I mean, it was great. I mean, it was just so pleasing to see that happen with that movie. Because it's a great
amazing.
movie
That's
anyway. And plus,
we should just take a second and appreciate what a perfect scene in a movie that is, too.
and there's nothing in the movie that gives it away. It's completely out of nowhere.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
It's a great scene. It's a perfect scene.
Now show him Tim Burton's movie.
Oh God, the movie's so
It
bad.
completely ruined everything.
Jared, so I think you've got the oldest of the bunch.
Yes.
So what was your game plan?
Well, I was thinking when Hannah's my daughter and she's 15 now. She was born in 2006. So when she was coming up, I thought, well, it didn't matter to me if I had a boy or a girl. I was just kind of going to do my thing. Like, she's either going to like this or she's going to like Disney princesses and Barbies. And, as it turned out, it was a little bit of both. But the first time that something clicked with her was in, I think it was late 2007 or early 2008. The trailer for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was released. And say what you want about the film, that first trailer was really pretty great. It had scenes from the other indie movies, and it kind of culminated. They used some of Brian Tyler's score from Children of Dune in that trailer. It culminated with a blast of the Indiana Jones fanfare. And when I would watch this trailer repeatedly, Hannah would start to perk up when she would hear the opening, the fanfare, the da 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 da. And so after a day or two, she'd point at the TV and go, dun dun. I'd be like, dun dun. She goes, dun dun. She was in her very primitive way was doing the John Williams music. Nice. And she would point at the TV and say, dun dun. And then I would turn it on and she would stand transfixed like 3 inches from the TV screen.
Really? The seed was planted.
And so I thought, well, hey, that's very interesting. And this was before she was even like really forming sentences or anything. But she did, when she'd come in the living room, she'd point at the TV and go, dun dun. And I don't even think it was, in 2007, I'm not even sure that this stuff was on YouTube yet, or even if YouTube was a thing, but I had it on the DVR, so I would pull it up on the DVR and watch it. the Indiana Jones trailer was her first the first indication that I might be making some inroads
That's great.
into her mind.
Did she remain an indie fan growing up?
Yeah, she actually watched Raiders. She was too young to watch it. She watched it with me and my dad, and when their faces started melting, my dad's like, "Hey, you might want to cover her face," and I was like, "Yeah, this is ridiculous."
How old was she?
She was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4.
Oh.
I mean, she was. I mean, she had already seen at that point a lot of crazy stuff in that movie, but she was kind of transfixed and a little horrified, I think. Yeah, so I think Indiana Jones was kind of her gateway, and as she got older, she started to kind of, latch on to Princess Leia and Padme, and then Ahsoka was also kind of a big deal when she was young. We met Ashley Eckstein at our place of business, and Ashley talked to Hannah for like an hour and a half.
Oh, amazing!
Which was completely blew her mind. Which, it's crazy that every once in a while Ashley will pop up on social media and ask how Hannah's doing, which is crazy. And no, I haven't asked her to be on the podcast, but maybe I should.
So I will tell you, the listeners, that Jared has done a great job indoctrinating and steering his daughter in the right direction. She has recently revealed her amazing talent as a very, very talented artist. And Jared has shared a few things already on social, but I saw one recently that she did of Obi-Wan for his birthday and of Lando Calrissian. She should do one of Ahsoka for Ashley.
Absolutely.
And
I
never
even thought of that,
because she's amazing and she's a hell of an artist, and it'd be, I'm sure Ashley would absolutely
and
adore
that's kind of
that picture.
That's kind of where her passion has ended up.
But like a Clone
drawing.
Wars version, not like
at Rosario Dawson, that might be like a slap in the face. Hey, here you go. But Hannah, she does like a lot of things that I'm not familiar with, and one of the things that she's into is anime, and I don't really know anime from a Bugs Bunny cartoon, but she really likes this thing called Lupin the Third, which apparently is this anime that goes back into the 60s and 70s. And we sat down and watched it. He's sort of like this Japanese James Bond guy, but it's all animated. And so we watched that together, and I thought it was pretty cool. And she's just been discovering this stuff. But she also is like, she came into the Muppets, and she loves the Muppets. At night when she sleeps on her TV, she just puts on Disney Plus and lets the Muppets just run on loop all night. That's like her nightlight. When we wake her up in the morning, Gonzo and Kermit are there doing some crazy crap. So,
while we're talking about the Muppets, next season 6, folks, we're almost done with season 5. But in season 6, we should do like our favorite Muppets episode. Because the Muppets was such, we talk about like movies and sci-fi a lot, but like the Muppet Show was such an integral part of my like youth and my TV.
Yeah.
So
when it was on, I never missed it.
Never. So we're going to cover that in season 6 and talk about some of our favorite episodes. But but it's amazing that she's watching the Muppets. I actually got my kids to watch the Muppets, and you know what? They really like it, but it's hard to keep their interest in it. And I tell you what, this is a real indicative problem that I'm seeing with my kids and how entertainment is being fed to them. Unless it's a big movie like Frozen, Frozen, they can watch Frozen forever. But like they're used to looking at their iPads and switching through YouTube, and every 2 seconds it's a new video, 2 seconds a new video. And to get them to sit down and watch a show is not easy. It's not easy to do. I had them, try to watch the Muppet shows, and they loved it for 5 minutes, and then they're ready for something else. And this is it's going to be a tough sell, keeping these kids focused on entertainment.
Well, see,
force them to sit in the movie theater.
That's the issue I was having, but like I said, they're kind of growing out of that a little bit. Like David he'll be 12 in June. So he's getting more into, he's interested in stories. Like, here's a good example, and I've brought this up before, is we all went to see the Batman, which I loved. I thought it was great. But after the movie, David was like, I was like, oh man, I love that movie. And David's like, I don't know, it was kind of boring. And Seth said he loved it, but I think he was saying he loved it because I loved it. So they had the trailer for The Flash on there, and we know that Keaton is in it as Batman. Yep. So I kind of talked about like, well, yeah, there's the Michael Keaton Batman, and I swear I think we tried to watch it with him, but I think he was too young. So anyway, we watched it, and David loved it. He just thought it was great. Like, he was like, oh man, it was like action packed. It was really good. He just loved it, and I was really kind of surprised because that movie, compared to movies now, is a lot slower paced, even for being an action movie. Mm-hmm. And then we watched Batman Returns, which I think that one's actually better than the first Batman, but he didn't like it as much. He liked it, but he thought some parts of it was boring, which I can see, but I think he'll grow into it. But I feel like he's starting to kind of like reassess stuff from a more mature perspective, where he's not looking for like stuff is like grabbing him, like when we watch movies, he's like trying to figure out the story, like he'll try to be like, oh, well, I think that guy's going to do this or blah, 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 and stuff like that. So I think that's where he's changing as far as his mindset is going, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, he's maturing, and getting a little more introspective as far as those kind of things.
Right.
It's interesting. I'm sure you've already told him, but like movies like Superman with Christopher Reeve.
I did tell him.
Like Batman. I mean, these are movies that established a whole genre.
I told him that. I explained that to him before we watched it. I said, David, before this movie came out, there wasn't superhero movies all over the place. And I think he was really interested by that. He seemed to like, oh, really? You always tell when they're actually listening to you. Mm-hmm. And he and after it was over, he was like, so you're saying that movie was, the first one like that? And I said, yeah, before that, there was the TV series, which was kind of goofy. I said, people were kind of surprised by this, by how dark it was and everything. And, he thought all that was like, he was actually interested in the backstory of it as well.
You should show him Beetlejuice.
We have watched Beetlejuice. They love it.
They love it.
Yeah.
Just not Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
No. Oh, they like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, too, actually. They really did like that.
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't like that?
That's such a great movie.
My daughter went through a phase where she watched that like on loop for like a month. And then I was like, there's a whole TV series about this. And she's like, what? But I could only find a couple episodes.
It was on Netflix or something for a while.
Then there's the darker stand-up like routine he does, the Playhouse. You know what I'm talking about?
I never saw those.
It's like a 2 hour or an hour and a half special.
I remember seeing the box for it at the video rental, but I never watched it.
It was slightly more mature and darker, but
that's what he did before he really embraced just the pure goofiness of it. So, but yeah, Pee-wee can appeal to kids of all ages.
Well, Big Adventure is just a really great movie.
So wacky.
It's so fun.
So bizarre.
And it's so good-natured.
That might be one to throw on for your kids, Matt, just to see what they make of it.
That's true. I don't think they should wait too long to watch it, because they'll probably question the character too much. Like, there's an innocence to Pee-wee that might be worth watching when they're younger versus older.
When they're small.
Because if you just first, like, you sample that when you're like, a late teenager, you might just be like, this, it's ridiculous.
No, I don't think that's true. Because when I was in high school when that movie came out, and people in my high school loved it. I mean, you heard kids.
You were in high school in 87?
Throwing, well, yeah, I graduated at 90.
Yeah, I mean, Jared, we started in 89, so.
Oh, crap, yeah. So, I forget Mike is 89
wait.
It's speaking of the 80s and like television shows, we one thing that my son, and I think I mentioned this in the podcast before, I have an original G1 Optimus Prime, no trailer, but I still have his hands, no gun. But I had my Optimus Prime, and he would play with it, and I wound up showing him. He must have watched the opening of the Transformers the movie, from the opening to when Optimus dies, probably 100 times. Because he loved the music and he loved the whole sequence of Megatron and Optimus fighting.
Sure.
So that's why I bought him his own, and I shared it with you guys, the replica of Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
And
That's
which is amazing replica.
Yeah, you only paid like $30 for it, but it's indistinguishable.
Oh my God! The only thing is that like some of the decals don't have as like the stick isn't as good, so I had to like super glue them on. But phenomenal model.
Man.
But my son has that now, so he likes to play with the same kind of Optimus Prime I played with as a kid. So not that he's going to be a Transformers fan, but there's still the connective tissue happening there.
Yeah. That's I let Hannah play with a lot of my old Star Wars figures, and she would put them in different adventures. I have a picture of a clone trooper riding a My Little Pony, and I took a picture of it because I was like, this is my daughter. This is a picture. If my daughter is represented as a toy in a picture, this is it. And so she would just sort of mix up all her My Little Ponies and Barbies and Disney Princess stuff with the Star Wars stuff. So, you had My Little Ponies flying around in Slave One. So she did enjoy the toys, and I eventually reclaimed all of them, of course, because, I'm not giving that stuff to a kid. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Blame you. Mike, I was just thinking about the Batman movie, showing them Keaton's Batman. And I'm like, there's been a lot of CGI and special effects and, impressive movie things that they've been exposed to, but they still liked Batman, right? Even though it didn't have all the CGI and all that stuff.
I think their first introduction was the Lego game, but then their second really intro to it was the Arkham games, because they would watch me play it. And then I did show them the Nolan ones, which they liked. But so they were always kind of like a fan of Batman.
I use that as a hopeful example, because there are some movies I'm starting to think that maybe I should show them these movies now before they get too spoiled with really like impressive graphics. Like, I'll give you an example, like The Last Starfighter. Maybe I should show that to them sooner than later, because will they enjoy something like The Last Starfighter in 10 years after they've grown up with these phenomenal effects and whatnot? Well,
I think you're over. I think that was something I was worried about, but once again, I'll go to David's reaction to Batman. Also, think about Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes is no ILM
you're right.
special.
It's very hopeful for me to hear this, because these are things I worry about.
And I was going to do another movie I showed him recently.
Oh no, he's laughing. Something's terrible.
Well,
Porkies.
they've been wanting to, you can't control what they're exposed to at school, and they're way into Michael Myers, even though they've never seen a Halloween movie.
Yeah, sure.
No, they really haven't. So
They had like a Michael Myers mobile above their.
They did. Like
their
Seth
crib.
has a stuffed Michael Myers thing. So anyway, I didn't buy that. But
What? Who bought that for him if you didn't?
Who let him keep it?
look, I didn't buy it. Okay, but I got one too. So
Yeah, of course you did.
but so they're like, and that's the thing they do. Like, when can I watch this? How old until I can watch this? So one thing I don't know if I've talked about this before is I edit movies, because I took another movie we can talk about, Aliens. I showed them an edited version of Aliens.
Right.
Oh my gosh, they loved it. They absolutely.
So basically, what they saw was the opening credit and the end credits.
Yeah. I took out a lot of Hudson's colorful dialogue, and I did take out the chest.
That's great, man.
I took out the chest burster, most of that.
Game over, man.
But anyway, they loved it. I mean, when it was done, they were exhausted. When the movie was over, they were tired. But
Such a good movie.
so I did show them Halloween 3, which is kind of like a Tales from the Crypt episode. And I did trim some of the stuff out. But the great thing about Halloween 3 is it's got a cliffhanger ending. You know, like that's like the horror stories where, you know, when you think everything's wrapped up and then something happens and then, well, there's the Halloween 3 Ends was that famous scene where Tom Atkins is on the phone trying to get the networks to take the commercial back when there was only 3 networks. And he was trying to get the network to take the commercial off. And it was, he had the 2 down, he had the 2 taken off, and the movie ends with the 3rd one still playing. And he's just going, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. And it cuts to black and you hear him go, stop it. And
I don't think I've ever seen that.
The boys, man, David especially was pissed. He was like, he was like, because they were into it. They were into the movie. And it ends, and David was like scowling. He's like,
What is this?
Did you edit the ending off? I'm like, no.
They're blaming you.
Yeah.
See?
I'm like, no, that's the way. And he was mad. He was
that's funny.
pissed. But he's like, he has to have, that's the way his brain works. He has to like understand how everything works. You know, he's got that type of brain, and he just could not accept the cliffhanger ending. And he just was like, he was mad. He's like, man,
This is very interesting.
that movie
actually.
stinks. That movie was terrible. I hate that movie.
So they know that you edit movies for them, right?
Oh yeah. In fact, through the whole movie, they'll be going like, did you edit there? Did you edit there?
So what an experience!
And then
you've laid for them.
sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I'll miss one, and they love that. Oh, Dad, you missed the word.
That, you know, it's an amazing, interesting like world you've now created for your kids, because they're going to be watching these movies later and going like, oh, like there's things ahead for them that
Yeah,
they
but you know
haven't
what?
seen yet.
We experienced the same thing when we were kids, when we watched stuff on network TV, because
On TV,
they did the
yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Edited for years. The only version of First Blood I would watch was the network version. So even when I watch it now, the F-bomb surprised me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I forgot that was in here. Because for years I watched just the TV edited version. So so I thought it's like I just equate it to the same thing. You know, a lot of times we saw movies, and you remember when a movie would start on TV that had that caption at the bottom, edited for television?
Yep.
Yes.
That's funny. I had arguments for years. We talked about this also about Transformers the movie, about Spike.
It's
cursing, and like for years people were like, no, he never said that. I'm like, he did. I was in the theater. I heard it. No, he never did. So it was like that whole thing back and forth for years and years. If you caught it on television, you never heard it. And if you saw it for like a limited run for like the first, I think they only let it.
Well, such a strange thing to
like,
put in a
It was
movie.
The
the
didn't
VHS
last-
release didn't have it either. I don't.
No,
think.
they cut it out of the VHS, and
Yeah, so if you
it
didn't
wasn't
see
until
the theater,
it came on DVD years and years later that they reinstated the.
Look! It isn't even dented! Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah, I downloaded a copy for the boys to watch, and the one I downloaded had it in there, and I was very surprised. I was like, "What?"
It is extraneous and a little it's because hey, we're making a movie, so let's throw some cursing in there.
But I mean, at the same time, heroes that you liked at the TV show are dying.
Yeah,
Like,
that
it's
was
like
a big
blowing holes in them. And they're like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it's like it was a heavy movie from the start, so it didn't pull any punches, that movie.
No, and it was all to sell new Transformers that nobody wanted.
those crappy plastic
true.
ones that were so junky
God.
looking.
Yes, the ones from the future time, and it was like nobody wants Hot Rod. Get that out of here.
Oh, Hot Rod was
I
terrible.
remember seeing those on the shelves or in the catalog, and I was like, man, even as a kid, I was like, man, those look junky.
Yeah, it was lame. It was a giant miscalculation.
Totally.
So, but you know, my daughter, she has come back. You know, there's a big thing with, I don't know, we call them Gen Z kids, I guess, but a lot of those kids, it's cool now to like the retro stuff,
Yeah,
and
sure.
that the retro stuff is basically us. So, for her, I mean, she likes, you know, she's kind of an old soul in that way. She likes going to thrift stores. She likes things because they're old. You know, I mean, one of her big things, right? She's really into the Bambi, the Walt Disney movie, Bambi, the old movie. And for Christmas, I found her this Bambi statue from 1943, and gave that to her. And for her, that was just amazing because it's from 1943, so it's old, so it's cool. And I think that's how she's kind of found her way back to some of this. I mean, we're talking about being Ghostbusters for Halloween this year because she really got into Ghostbusters. She played the Xbox game, and she after Afterlife came out, she was just like, okay, that's it. I love Ghostbusters now. So Ghostbusters.
Good news
is
for
another
her.
thing.
There's one with an all-female cast that she might like.
Yeah, we don't ever talk about that version though because it's terrible.
Man, I've never watched that.
No, and it's that movie's so terrible that they gave it away. They give it away when you sign up for like Voodoo and stuff. It's like you get like.
Did you guys watch that movie?
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I did.
I watched it.
I
watched it
did.
with Terry.
Is it really as bad as everyone says?
It's not. It's just there.
I've seen worse movies, I would say, but the whole time you're wondering, why was this movie made? What is the purpose?
The problem with the movie is they're trying too hard.
100%.
They're pushing those jokes as hard as they can possibly push them, and they're just not funny jokes. And it makes it annoying. It just annoys you.
And the whole thing is, and I think people were upset because all these years people wanted some kind of follow-up to Ghostbusters 2. They wanted to see those characters in another adventure. And if this movie had been called like, Spooky Central or something like that, and not affiliated with Ghostbusters, it may not have been, it may not have taken so much heat. But the fact that they slapped Ghostbusters on it and they said, "Oh well, this is a total reboot." I think that's just what people were like. Well, why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. It's we want Ghostbusters 3. We want the original characters. We don't want.
Well,
this.
I think what also, I'm kind of getting off topic here, but I just want to add. I think what really made people mad was the fact that when they said, "Hey, you know what? This movie isn't any good," and we were being called like sexist and stuff like that. Like, you just don't like it because women are in it. And it's like,
because it's all girls.
We don't like it because it sucks. I mean,
this movie is terrible.
Look at all the movies we grew up watching. We had Ripley was one of our heroes. Prince. We're not afraid of strong women. That's bull crap.
Sure. What we are afraid of is crappy films. And that one unfortunately lives forever on my digital movie library, just like the U2 album that never disappeared from my iPod.
I have it as well. That's how I watched it, because I was like up one night and it's the extended cut. I thought, I'm gonna give it a crack, and and it's just, the story's dumb. It's a really bad story. The cast is not funny. They might be funny in separate things, but not in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the whole thing when Afterlife came out was so well received. The people involved in the making of that film still had sour grapes. The fact that Afterlife is a really good movie is probably what their problem is with it, because they did not make a good movie. But anyway, this isn't the Ghostbusters podcast.
Yeah. Well, I think kind of summing up, I have hope for my younger kids that they're going to grow up and they're going to either appreciate stuff that I liked or they're not, because they're going to have their own likes and they're going to be their own people. And I think that's the worry of every generation, that they're like, well, I want them to like what I like, because I want to relate to them.
Well, you want to share it with them.
Yeah, I want to share it. But you know what? In the end, they're going to have their own stuff that they grow up with, that they're going to talk about when they're older, about how cool Teen Titans is or something. I don't know what the hell they're going to talk about, but they're going to find their thing and they're going to like it, and they're going to have some connective tissue back to their own childhood. But you know what? I kind of hope that at least some of it is stuff that I like.
Well, I have two incidents I'd like to go over briefly.
Do it.
They were almost backfires. One was definitely a backfire.
You over revved it.
Well, when David was very small, and I have a video of this.
You
I
took
showed him
behind
Night
a
of the
boat,
Living Dead.
You trolled him behind a boat. To try
I
to
showed
Jaws
him the
experience.
1998 Godzilla movie.
With Matthew Broderick.
Yes, and I have this really cute video of him going, Godzilla was on stepping on cars.
I remember that.
And
That's a funny.
trucks and taxis.
What did Godzilla do?
He scared me
He did. Why did he scare you?
because he was too scary.
What did he do?
He stepped on the cars.
He stepped on cars?
Yeah, and taxis.
He stepped on cars and taxis?
Yeah.
Did you see any helicopters?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, helicopters. Yeah, helicopters come from Godzilla.
Oh, they came for Godzilla?
Yeah.
What were they going to do?
They was flying.
Oh, so Godzilla was stepping on what kind of cars?
Taxis and cars
Oh,
and trucks.
he was stepping on trucks.
Yeah.
You want to watch it again tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow I will.
He is now a Godzilla freak. I should take a picture of his room and post it. There are Godzilla figures everywhere. He knows all the movies. He knows the years they were released. I got him the film scores. He listens to the film scores. I mean, it's like I thought he might outgrow it. It's his Star Wars. That's what it is. Godzilla is his Star Wars. He loves it. He loves the new movies. He loves the original Japanese movie. I mean, he loves them. He wants to go to Japan. He wants to live in Japan.
Wow.
So now it's funny because this leads to my next story. There's Sum 41? Is that the band? The end of
that is a band. Yeah.
There was a movie that's called Godzilla Final Wars, and it's actually terrible. That ends with a Sum 41 song, and it's kind of a rock heavy song. So we're going to school one day, and he's listening to that song. And kids they like to explain this stuff to you because you don't understand. And he's like, "Daddy, this song is heavy metal. This is hard stuff." So I was a little incensed.
As Mike's wearing his Megadeth underwear.
Yeah, I'm a little incensed here. So I'm like, really? So as a joke, nothing more than a joke, I called up Slayer's War Ensemble. So I put it in, music starts, and this look on his face it's like he has just suddenly received this grand revelation. I mean, it was like, I was looking at him like, oh my gosh, what's going on right now? And he was like, he was like 2 minutes into it, he goes, I got to hear that from the beginning. And he started it and he's like we were at the beach, and he found a Slayer band member Funko Pop, and he had to have it. So now he's into Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica. Like, he's into all of it.
Wait, how old is he now?
He's 11, and he plays drums now. He's been doing drum lesson. And I was like I said, that backfired because I thought he would be like, "Oh, turn this off. This sounds terrible." Instead, it was like he was like, "Oh my!" It was like the most wonderful thing he had ever. It was very bizarre. So anyway, like I said, that one kind of backfired on me. But now he's like a huge metalhead.
Well, so how is that a backfire? Because that's kind of what you are.
Well, now the thing is I have to pick out the appropriate songs.
Oh yeah, because you can't just be letting your 11-year-old listen to Slayer all the time.
But every now and then one sneaks through. Like, they're listening to Dead Skin Mask. They were playing that in front of their mom, and she's like, "What is this song?" And they're like, "Dead Skin Mask," and she's like, "Oh, lovely."
Yeah.
So,
well, Matt, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Now, I think you could have an uphill battle with your daughters, because I think your wife's great, but she is a girly girl, and I bet you she loves having daughters.
Well, I'll tell you. So, you're referring to probably what you're seeing posted on social recently. So my daughter, my oldest daughter, she just turned 5, and she is, from the start, without any help, the girliest of girly girls.
Sure.
You know, when she was like 1 year old, she would like just want to sit in my wife's closet and look at like shoes and just put shoes on her feet. By the time she was 2, she was picking at her own outfits every day to wear, you know, coordinating the colors and all that stuff. And you know, now she's like, it's amazing to watch. It's kind of funny. And she is a true Disney obsessive. She is like, we took her to Disney in January, and you know, we had the royal lunch and the castle, and like she walked around in her Elsa outfit, and she for the day we were only allowed to call her Elsa. And,
I will only answer to Elsa.
And it's true, she only did. And she ate like I can show you guys pictures. She ate the lunch with her pinky up, and like everything, whether it was like some mashed potatoes or her water, was a royal, you know, endeavor. But that said, she's also she comes to me and she's like, Dad, can we watch the gorilla and Godzilla? She wants to watch Kong and Godzilla all the time. And so I'm like, yeah, we'll put it on, you know, Godzilla versus King Kong. And she gets upset if I'm watching Star Wars with my son Christopher and she's not. So
okay,
there is some hope that she will always be a girly girl, but there's also some hope that deep down in that absolutely amazing brain of hers, that there's a piece of me in there that's trying to get out too.
Sure. Well, you know, I would say just every once in a while bring up Her Universe clothing on your iPad, slip it across the table. You know, that's Ashley Eckstein's clothing brand for women with a geeky slant to it.
Oh,
so,
is that right? Okay.
Yeah. heruniverse.com. Terry and Hannah have lots of stuff from them. So
I'll try to weave some of that in, but it's that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Truly wonderful the mind of a child is.
Man,
wow.
Isn't that amazing, though?
Yeah.
And the world that we try to preserve and share with our kids, and only hope that they can appreciate it half as much as we did.
And now we're trapped in the 25th century. We don't know if any of it worked.
Who knows?
We can't see our families. So
I show movies out my tube window to the people passing by. They don't
to
even
the
pay
faceless
attention.
drones.
They don't even pay attention.
They're too busy walking around.
I feel like I'm in the black.
unitards.
I'm in like the black hole command ship where they're all at their stations. And I'm trying to talk to them, but nobody's talking to me.
Yeah, that stinks. Well, you know, we do what we can.
We're here. We're spreading the good word.
We are, and we're going to be back with you for a few more weeks. We're not quite done yet, so you know, keep your podcatchers tuned to this station, and we'll be back with you next Monday. I hate to say this, I'm going to have to turn off my video. This is bullshit.
What's wrong?
I got low system resources.
You got a message on that?
Yeah, same thing every week. I don't know. I clean out this fucking thing.
You know you can't live without this content. So subscribe to The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.